So Israel is now bombing the southernmost city in Gaza, Rafah, which was home to 200,000 Palestinians. It's now been inundated with so many refugees. It's home, in a lot of quotes, to about 1.5 million Palestinians.
Yeah, who evacuated from the north.
Who were evacuated, who fled the north if they survived, with their lives, with, whatever fragments of family and personal belongings that they had. And now, under the guise of rescuing hostages, the IDF has begun dropping bombs on the city. Started on Sunday night, killing 100 people on Sunday. Estimated hundreds sort of every day. I don't know the exact count from Monday. It's Tuesday now. The IDF says there are Hamas cells in Rafah, because of course they're saying that. And they did actually manage to extract 2 hostages, which, as you pointed out on Twitter, Matt, very astutely, that's not a good ratio. You tweeted 110 hostages were released via ceasefire. It took 120 plus days, 13,000 dead Palestinian children, and at least 5 hostages killed by the IDF for you to rescue 2. And this is in response to who is the
Eylon Levy, who is like he is he's the Israeli government spokesperson.
There's so many of them.
Yeah, there's a lot of Hezbollah out there. He's I think his particular position is from the office of the prime minister. So I think he's Netanyahu's guy. But there's a few different ones out there. Yeah.
So they rescued 2 hostages.
They rescued 2 hostages, which, by the way, brings the grand total of hostages rescued in military actions to 3. 3. Like, unbelievable that they would even begin to frame any of this as for the hostages, for the sake of protecting and bringing home the Israeli hostages.
Because you see right there, what's actually bringing them home is ceasefire.
It's a ceasefire and diplomatic negotiations. That's always been the thing. And every time you say that, someone will inevitably be like, well, Hamas won't agree to a ceasefire. That's because the negotiations that Israel is doing does not include the possibility of releasing more prisoners. It does not include anything that would allow Hamas to be like, to feel like there was a point. Because that's the point of hostages, buddy. The point of hostages is leverage. So they have the leverage. And if you're like, okay, what we want, our negotiating is to give up all your leverage and then just trust us that we won't massacre you and throw you out into the Sinai.
Just like we said, if you evacuate to Khan Yunis, we won't bomb Khan Yunis. And then we bomb Khan Yunis.
Just like we said, if you evacuate to Rafah, then we won't bomb Rafah. It's the same shit. So like,
and I think everyone needs to understand, and this is particularly chilling right now, and this week is very pivotal. Netanyahu has said that, quote, victory is close. And so again, to Matt's point, is victory releasing all the hostages and returning them to their families and making sure that they can go home?
They don't give a flying
fuck about them. Victory?
They don't give a shit, because if they gave a shit, then they would be negotiating. They would be doing a ceasefire and diplomatic negotiations. And the truth of it is that even if they got all the hostages back, like, they could continue on their tyrannical rule over huge portions of Palestine, like over the West Bank.
They most certainly would.
They would. They absolutely would. But the hostages rate so low in their priorities that they're not gonna fucking do that. No, because right now they have the pretext. The pretext is, without them having the hostages, they have no reason that they can sell to the general public for why we're still there.
And the victory is the recolonization of Gaza. It is
and the ethnic cleansing.
Number 2. It is ethnic cleansing. It is forced displacement and removal. It is, once again, as we talked about early on in this assault, effectively pushing Palestinians into the Sinai desert and having them be permanent refugees there, maybe, at the even more at the sort of like even more dependent on the United Nations for survival, to say nothing of Egypt. Now, interestingly, and everyone needs to know this. Egypt is amassing tanks on the border with Gaza. Now, those tanks are not against Israel. Those tanks are against people who may be trying to flee into Egypt should there be an all-out war, should some sort of border be breached, and should people try to flee for their lives. They're saying, we're going to open fire on you.
Yeah.
Which,
I mean,
as disgusting as that sounds, if the same shit were happening on the US-Mexico border and fucking like El Salvador was, bombing Mexico and Mexicans were moving north. Like, you think we wouldn't open fire on people? We almost already are, and they're just literally women and children, who are trying to escape low-level warfare.
Yeah. No, the difference is that the libs would be against it. That's
barely. Who knows? But yes.
I mean, here's the thing. I mean, that to me is what's annoying. Is at least the rhetoric would be like, no, that's not good. Instead, it's just like, you've got liberal Zionists who are just like, it has to be done. Or you have the fucking Democratic president being like, oh, I don't know. Oh, this is a little over the top. Anyways, here's more guns.
This is all to the folks who say, why can't, neighboring countries absorb Palestinian refugees? Number one, they have.
Yeah, they
already.
have. They're fucking filled with them. Jordan is like fucking the percentage of Palestinian. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. So anyway, it's very scary because this is literally, it's a death sentence for folks. And if you guys didn't know, how GoFundMe used to be a place which was like, and still is, full of Americans being like, hey, I need I'm having life-saving surgery on I have a kidney stone to be removed and I don't have money for it. Please help me. Or I got in a car accident, people in this first world nation that can't afford healthcare. GoFundMe is now for the Palestinians in Rafah who have managed to set it up, a place where they are trying to crowdsource money to get them out of Rafah, because there is a way out, but you have to pay between $7,000 to $8,000 a person in order to get out. And so, and we're talking again, 1.5 million people there. How many GoFundMes does it take to, how much money is this? It's unconscionable what is happening. It is unconscionable, the abdication of humanitarian responsibility from the United Nations, from the United States and the United Nations and the international community. But because of the US's blocking of any sort of calls for ceasefire, as if again, as if Israel would even abide by those calls.
Right. Yeah.
As if that would even. So anyway, if anybody thought that, well, there just needs to be a little bit of, Israel needs to kill a few thousand people, but then they'll chill out, it'll be fine. Yeah. No, this was a pretext. This is a pretext. Let's not talk about how they knew a year in advance that there were plans being drawn up by Hamas to do October 7th. But it was allowed to happen somehow. It happened. Security was breached.
Yep.
People were murdered, and this is the response. And it is a pretext for the reconquest of Gaza completely.
And you want to know, so a talking point that it was been brought up multiple times by Israeli diplomatic officials specifically, and others fucking weirdo Zionists online, genocidal maniacs, etc., is whenever someone stayed in one of those zones where they're like, hey, we're going to bomb Gaza City, you better get out and go to Khan Yunis. Whenever someone stayed, Israel, the most moral army in the world, said, hey, it's sad that they died, that, this family, but they stayed, we told them to leave. And that's why we're the most moral army in the world. You have to put into context what that's about. You have to remember that they know in Gaza, they know exactly what happens. You either stay and risk fucking life and death and having your property destroyed and all that, or you leave never to return, because they know what this is. It's exactly like 48. There were Palestinians who stayed, who didn't there were Palestinians who were able to just kind of stick around in certain towns in Israel, like 48 borders Israel. It's same thing in the West Bank. There were obviously villages that were completely emptied and whatnot. But anyone who could, like, hung on for dear life, and it was the only possible way of keeping what was theirs. And so I look at like what is happening, and you to say to it, like, well, Israel's right, they should leave because what if they die? It's like they're gonna fucking try to kill you no matter what. They are going to bomb you in Khan Yunis. They're gonna bomb you in Rafah. They're gonna bomb you anywhere that you are. At this point, the idea of believing that it is moral to tell someone before you destroy their life, like, to, oh, I warned you, is so sadistic that I can only look at Israel now as the most jigsaw army in the world. They are the fucking dude from Saw.
Yeah.
That is what they're doing.
You have a choice.
You have a choice. You want to play a game? It's called genocide and ethnic cleansing. So, when you just look at the end result of all this,
that is. I mean, it's a joke, but it's not, because that's literally what Netanyahu is saying. He's saying, oh, they can go. They can go back north.
Right.
Back to the homes that we've literally leveled.
Yes.
There's nothing there but rubble.
They know what this is. They know what they're doing.
Let's move on to the United States' reaction, as we talked about briefly, the amount of power that the United States government has. Well, the Senate exercised that power and voted to give $95 billion of aid for not just Israel, but Ukraine and Taiwan.
USA.
Right. So collapsing all that money, it may not pass the House. I think there will be a certain amount of abstentions. And of course, we know that Republicans in the House are all about, like, they don't want money for Ukraine, but they do want money for Israel. They've been trying to pull it apart. Then they connect it to the border, but they don't want that. And it's a whole thing.
God.
But to run interference for the administration, good old Pinocchio as a grown-up boy, Matthew Miller is his name, a State Department spokesperson, who is answering questions. Look at him. He's truly... he's all grown up. He was answering some questions about from the media about the US's approach to Israel, like, hey, how's that diplomacy working? How's it all? You getting them to do what you want? Here is his response.
We have pursued the policy that we think gives us the maximum ability to be successful in influencing how Israel conducts its military campaign, and how
are you happy with the results?
In many cases, no, absolutely, we are not.
No. There's nothing perfect there, but
Hey, you try again. Fail
exactly,
up.
Exactly. You get back on that horse.
My favorite is, like, what did we want him to say? Like, it's actually kind of first of all, you're supposed to John Kirby it. You're supposed to just be a total a-hole about it and be like, yes, we have. Of course we have. Because they would have done all this faster. No, it would have been 3 months instead of 4. We've delayed it.
Yeah.
But
we peeled the Band-Aid off slowly.
You sort of get in this Pinocchio man a little bit of an admission, as we know the State Department is largely in disagreement with Blinken's approach, with Biden's approach, and you get glimmers of that in Matthew Miller. You get glimmers of him sort of like, I know I am like, I'm trying to sell this to myself, bro. Like, I wake up every morning like,
kill. No, you have no feelings.
Exactly.
Some people aren't people. Some babies are born bad. That's what you got to do. That's how you got to live with yourself.
You can feel that come across in these.
It is nice to see a little bit of shame. I do. Like, it's not open, but you look in the eyes and you see, like, oh shit, lifelong trauma. Fuck.
Yeah, no. Oh, poor guy.
Poor guy.
Yes, the trauma out of all this is definitely the trauma of Biden officials who have to keep making excuses.
It's the only thing, it's the only justice that I can hope for at this point is a lifelong pain, anguish, and regret that all of these motherfuckers are going to feel.
I agree.
It's easier to paint, people as like all being like sociopaths. I don't think they're all sociopaths. I think some of them are just inside are falling apart and good. I hope they do, and I hope they live a long life of falling apart, because that's all they deserve in lieu of hell. Go on.
So here he is asked a question, and he sort of finds his footing. He's able to he's got a really good, he's got a good line here about why the United States can't do more when it comes to Israel's genocide.
While you say you have seen some results from the quote unquote pressure that you have applied, they're not enough, and that the situation is still not good and not and not acceptable to you. Is that a fair assessment of what you said?
I will say, I think that sometimes people pretend that the United States of America has a magic wand that it can wave to make any situation in the world roll out in exactly the way that we would want it to. And that is never the case.
Okay, we use
the tools that are available.
Other people.
We use the tools that are available to try to influence policy. They are imperfect, and there are ways in which we have been able to show tangible results, and more that we want to do, and that is why we continue to stay engaged.
You know, this is why, like, it makes me, and I don't actually miss Republicans. Don't mishear me, but you miss a true bitch. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You miss like a Rumsfeld who's just absolutely full of it. Like I obviously do not miss Rumsfeld, but like, and then again, to Matt's point, this shame, this clawing for some sort of metaphor, for we don't have a magic wand, and that is where you and I, that's where we strike. Truly, this is the difference between, and I know, like. I miss the like full-throated warmongering because at least they're being honest.
Right,
but I don't miss them in terms of like
who should be in power.
And also who is a more gettable target.
Right.
That dude, you get that dude in a restaurant, he'll be like, have my fries. You know what I mean? Like he will collapse.
Yes.
What I'm saying is like this is a good place to put these people. Good on the media there and good on protesters everywhere. But you see him saying, Matt, did you know that like the United States, look, we have the greatest military, the largest, richest military in the country. We have more bases around the world than any nation. But like
the most powerful, the most influential state in the world.
Okay,
easily.
But we're not Merlin. You know what I'm saying? Like we're not.
I love it. It's like it's not like it's not like there's some sort of magical blue fairy that could make me a real boy. That only happened once. Like this fool, like, and it's so disgusting too, because once again, it's this complete inversion of the power dynamic. He is doing the best he can in order to just be like, well, it's not like the United States can just like stop them. And it's like, well, I guess it's true. They physically, if we were to stop backing them completely, they wouldn't immediately fucking stop. They would, but guess what?
I give it 3 weeks.
I give it 3 weeks before what they would do is immediately go, what do we do? What do we do? How do we do this? How do we get the United States back? This idea that Israel is this like fucking rogue state that is like just gonna fucking go off on its own anyways. I don't need you. And the fucking Israelis say this all the time. We don't need your guns, because guess what? They don't. I mean, at this point, they have all the weapons they need.
Well, they have all the guns we already gave.
We have, we have all your guns
that they gave them,
and money. And the truth of it is they know what they need is the United States always being right behind them with fucking, our big burly muscles and our sleek oiled pecs, and just like our hot little chaps. Anyways, but they know they have the backing of the largest fucking army in the goddamn world. That's what they need. And without that, which is something that, I'm sorry, but budgets and things that have to go through Congress, absolutely, that there's the Israel lobby can get its hands into all sorts of like, oh, we're gonna make sure you lose this election, congressman from the 8th district of whatever, or we're gonna make sure that you don't win by a mandate, senator from Missouri. But the president is the president and unilaterally has the power to do a bunch of things diplomatically to Israel, including just saying, "Oh, fuck you." Nuh-uh. You might be like, "Oh, well, he gonna lose the election." Motherfucker, everything he's doing is election calculation, and it's leading to
Who,
a genocide.
Netanyahu?
No, everything that Biden is doing
yeah.
is election calculation. He is the reason.
No, it's you know what?
I mean,
it is
partially.
I mean, look, let's just be real about who Biden is. Biden is a vice president pancake breakfast motherfucker. All right? My man was never meant to be president.
He was meant to eat ice cream in a car.
He was supposed to be ice cream. And this is a perfect example.
Yes.
A perfect example of it. You cannot stand up for the United States on a world stage. You cannot flex the muscle of the US. You cannot flex the purse. You cannot even dangle the purse when it comes
because he doesn't believe in the idea that Israel should be held back.
It's the same thing as like giving Joe Manchin the pen that he signed the Inflation Reduction Act, even though Joe Manchin was the person who tanked his entire agenda. And I haven't wanted to see it where you're like, yeah, maybe this is like stealth Biden. Maybe this is dark Brandon. No, none of it. It's just, he is a well-intentioned elderly man with a poor memory.
Yeah, no, he absolutely is. I don't think that Biden is necessarily a genocidal maniac, but I do think that he's
a well-intentioned Zionist, which means a murderer.
He knows the consequences of his actions, but he is a believer. He is a Zionist, and he believes Israel, as flawed as they are, should defeat the terrorist threat, and he does not give a fuck. He does not give a fuck. At the end of the day, you see the amount of support, full-throated support for Israel in like Congress or by like some like especially right-wing senators. And it's not just like, oh, it's because they're afraid of the Israel. No, it's because they are full-throated believers in this apartheid state. They know the benefits,
or at least Biden does. At least
Biden does for sure.
And again, you could see Matthew Miller. And look, I want to play this last clip.
Yeah,
it's a little long, but I think it's worth it.
Okay,
because it's about who's going to rebuild Gaza at this point. And again, speaking
Israeli developers. Next question.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I don't want to play this clip.
Well, play it.
No, it's too much. It's too
long.
I
already put in the halls. All right.
No,
because I thought I had 2 minutes and 20 seconds to eat it.
Suck a hall for 2 minutes and 20 seconds.
Spit it out.
No, he basically is asked like, who's going to rebuild Gaza? And it was stemmed. The question stems from the United States and the Biden administration saying that Russia has a responsibility to rebuild Ukraine. So the journalist asks, well, what about Israel? Does Israel have a responsibility to rebuild Gaza? And oh man, Matthew Miller cannot answer this question straight. He's like, well, we have a number of countries who are going to
it's a sticky one.
Reconstitute, rebuild, and he's like rebuild. Well, now I can't fucking remember. Just watch.
They're all conflicts, and I realize that World War II is over, and the Ukraine war is not over, but neither is the Gaza war. And you're saying that Russia right now has to pay for the damage that it caused in Ukraine. So I'm just wondering, would you say the same, that Israel should pay for at least some of the damage that it has caused in Gaza, even though it's fighting, for what you say is a completely justifiable, or what is a completely justifiable.
So what I would say on that matter is that one of the things that we have heard through the Secretary's diplomacy in the region is that there are countries who are ready to step up and help pay for the reconstruction of Gaza. I don't mean Israel, other countries who are willing to step up and help with the reconstruction of Gaza and put real money into the game, as well as real political credibility, but that's another matter on another track. But just with respect to reconstruction, there are other countries who are willing to recontribute or contribute to the...
No, recontribute is right, because they've already rebuilt Gaza like 3 times, right?
Fair point.
And so,
let me just finish.
But Israel is not one of those countries.
Let me just finish.
Okay, so it goes on for a little bit, but that was great. So like he says, they're willing to contribute. And he goes, oh no, recontribute is the right phrase because they have helped. And by they, I mean, I think Egypt, Jordan, but also Qatar, Also probably Iran. Some money has come from Iran. Like, he's like, oh no, recontribute is good because that's the right phrase. And you see this moment where two people who understand the issue are like seeing eye to eye, and Matt on Matt crime here. Matt Miller's like, no, you're right. They've already helped rebuild. And in none of those instances has the person been has the country that's been helping with rebuilding been Israel. In none of those instances. And so it's just like, what can't Israel is the Trump of countries, people.
100%.
That's what Israel is. It can do anything. It can genocide a bunch of people.
And sell you any load of bullshit.
Tell you that it's because it's for good reason, and nope, they don't have to follow any rules of war, but which honestly, like, they should, I've said this multiple times, they should just say it is genocide so they can get away with doing what they're doing. Because when you say it's war, suddenly you have to abide by a bunch of international conventions. And by the way, you're apparently, like, international law says when you're occupying a territory, you cannot be engaged in a war of self-defense if you are the occupied.
That's right.
Right? Like, I mean, I'm wondering if, like, the British in India were like, well, it's self-defense. They want to wipe us off the map. You know what I mean?
No, but because colonization back then was so much more simple. It was like, no, we are the master race.
Yeah.
You guys are our subjects. You understand? Like, they already had this colonist mentality that was kind of like just taken as like, yeah, that's the way the world works, right? Especially in India with the caste system and everything. But but the problem is that Israel has to exist with this settler colonial mentality in a world that does not believe in settler colonialism anymore. So now they have to pretend, they have to do these like rewrites, like, oh no, actually we're indigenous, and actually it's a war of self-defense, because it's not Gaza we're fighting, it's all the Arab states surrounding us,
all the ones who've cleaned up our mess.
We're small bean, it's not the West Bank, it's literally all of Jordan we're fighting. It's not, it's like they have to rewrite the playbook, or not so much a playbook, but the marketing,
narrative,
the marketing material to fit today's tendencies, which is not believing in settler colonialism and not believing that big strong man is good. So they have to pretend to be little bean, and and
if that doesn't work, then they're like, and you're like, no, it is settler colonialism, and they agree that it's settler colonialism. They go, oh, you did it too,
right? Like, they're trying to girl boss genocide right now, straight up.
They really are. They really are. Like, this is about like Jews finding our voice.
Right, and the worst part of it is
we should move on. But my God,
no, but they implicate literally. It's not. This is one of the worst parts about it, is that it's not about like Israelis or whatever. It's like Jews. They implicate me and my family and your daughter and like all sorts of anyone who has any Jewish blood, or anyone who is believes in Judaism. It's like, worldwide, it's fucking bullshit, and it's the largest anti-Semitic enterprise in my lifetime. Listen to Bad House Bar every Monday.
Every Monday?
I guess so. I've been putting them out on Mondays. I don't know when. I do them whenever.
Okay. What's going on, Frantifa? If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that button. And also, you can become a patron and support the show every single week. Get access to bonus episodes and exclusive merchandise. Patreon.com/Bitchuation Room. Do it.